Welcome to Introduction to Mobile App Development, Module 6, Publishing Your App Studio app. In this module, we'll look at what it takes to get an App Studio app published to the Windows Phone Store. The process for doing this is not very difficult, but there are a few steps involved. We'll take a look at these steps and requirements and help you prepare for the process. Once you're ready to send your app to the store, you've essentially reached the end of this course. We'll make a quick review of what we've covered to help cement the concepts and then give you some tips on how to proceed from there. The process of getting an app published to the store isn't difficult, but there are some prerequisites to be informed about. The flow has some similarity to the app development lifecycle we've looked at before. The steps break down to this. Before you can begin the publishing process, you sign up for a Microsoft developer account. Don't worry, this isn't really signing up for a new account, so much as enabling your existing Microsoft account as a developer account. Once you've set up your developer account and your app is completed, you can begin the submission process. You'll reserve a name, submit the app, and it will be tested to ensure it complies with the certification requirements. When your app has cleared the certification process, you can begin marketing it by establishing your pricing, markets, and adding in-app advertising if you wish. When an app is available on the store, you will have access to reports to help you track sales, downloads, and other useful information. To maximize your app's usage and marketability, you will want to monitor user feedback and enhance your app with future revisions. After revising, you can release app revisions with updated versions of the code. Signing up for a developer account is a simple process. You must already have created a Microsoft account to begin the process, which obviously will not be a problem given that you've already been working within App Studio using a Microsoft account. We'll take a look at this process in a moment. When you sign up for your developer account, you will have the option to choose between two types of accounts. The two types are targeted towards two typical user types. If you are an individual, you can sign up cheaply and have the ability to publish apps to the Windows Phone Store and Windows Store. The primary limitation with an individual account is the inability to publish desktop apps. A company account will allow you to also publish desktop apps, but has some additional requirements. There is a slightly higher cost and the need for your company to be established as a business in your country or region. If you are a student, there is a third route that enables you to obtain the registration for free. You can find out more at the URL displayed here. Opening your developer account breaks down to the following. First, you need to fill in some contact details such as name, address, phone, etc. You will also need to choose a publisher display name that is displayed with your app listings on the Windows Store or the Windows Phone Store. Your publisher name will need to be unique on the Windows Phone Store, and this will be verified during the registration and Microsoft account validation processes. If you are not going to be selling any apps, you will be done with the registration process at this point. The next steps are required to sell apps on the Windows or Windows Phone Store. In order to receive payments for app purchases or in-app purchases, you will need to enter account information. You will also need to create a tax profile and then use PubCenter if you wish to create ad-funded apps. Once you've created your dev account registration, you can move on to preparing your app for publishing. The first step to prepare your app is to reserve your app name and enter the app info. For the Windows Phone Store, the amount of required information is fairly minimal. Basically, all you need to update is the app alias, the category, base price, package version number, the description, and then upload the required icons and images. Once you've entered these items, you can upload the distribution package and initiate the certification test, which we'll discuss shortly. When you provide your app alias, you should be aware that this is how you will see your app in Dev Center, not how it will appear in the Windows Phone Store. This alias must be unique to your account and can contain up to 100 characters. When choosing your app category, keep in mind that clearly defining your app's identity when choosing a category and subcategory can help users find it more readily in the store. If you feel your app belongs in a different category after you submit it, don't worry, as you can always change it at any time. Note that some categories will have subcategories. If you select one of these, you must assign a subcategory in order to submit the app. The price for your app can be changed at any time, before, during, or after certification. If your app is free, select $0 on the price list. You can provide a trial version of your app by selecting the Offer Free Trials of this app option. If you wish to provide a trial version of your app, you must use the Trial Application Programming Interface to implement different limited functionalities for this trial version. After setting your app's price, you should determine its distribution model and select the markets where you wish to sell it. Your choices are: distribute to all markets at the base tier. This is the default form of app distribution and attempts to publish to all countries or regions currently supported by Windows Phone Store. Distribute to all markets except China. Content that is offensive in any country or region to which your app is targeted is not allowed. It may be considered offensive because of local laws or cultural norms. China has some unique restrictions on app content. Continue distributing to current markets. Select this option if you plan to customize your market pricing or if you're updating your app and prefer to keep its existing market settings. Do you want your app to go directly into the store and into beta testing? If you choose beta testing, you will need to specify who will be trying out your app by providing beta tester email addresses. Your testers will need to have Microsoft accounts to try out your app. Will your app go live automatically or manually? Select automatically as soon as it's certified, if you want your app in the store as quickly as possible. When publishing automatically in the public store, it can take as little as a couple hours, but up to 48 hours to become available. Go with manually at any time after it's certified if you'd like to control the timing of the release yourself. If you make no adjustments in the More Options list, Public Store and Automatically are set as default distribution and published in sections as soon as your app is certified. If you've just submitted an update to an app in the store, authenticated push notifications are a great way to tell current users about the improvements you made. For apps published in the games category, you can upload certificates you've acquired from rating agencies. Some countries or regions require a specific version of the certificate awarded. The game will not be offered automatically in countries or regions where game ratings are required. When you submit your app, you have the option of uploading different types of images to give Windows Phone Store users a visual preview of what your app is about. App Studio will build screenshots by default and include them in your publication package. If you wish to provide alternate or replacement screenshots, you will need to build them yourself. Here are a few guidelines. All art files must be uploaded in PNG format with a recommended resolution of 96 dpi. To appear properly in the store, your uploaded art cannot have transparent backgrounds. You can upload images in landscape mode and they'll appear on windowsphone.com in the same orientation. The Dev Center can automatically create lower resolution screenshots by scaling down a higher resolution version. To capture a screenshot, you can do one of the following. Use the built-in emulator screenshot tool. Use the window snipping tool to capture the emulator window. Or use an actual Windows Phone device by pressing the power and start buttons at the same time. If you have a newer version, you push volume up and power button.
Okay, so now your app is done. It has all the new functionality and custom things that you've added to it in Visual Studio, and it's time to upload to the store. You need some screenshots. Screenshots are extremely important when it comes to getting downloads. Most users will just skip over your app if you only have one or two screenshots that don't really show the functionality of your app. Take advantage of the 8 slots that Microsoft gives you for screenshots. So here's how we can do it with the emulator. So deploy to the emulator, move it over to the left, and you see this little caret here that says Tools. Click on that, and you'll see this nice little toolbox come out. So the app is loading, and once it's in the view, you can come up to the Screenshot tab, and you can click Capture. Now that you have it captured, you can see the resolution, but there's a problem here. See these little numbers on the side? those will cause your app to fail certification. These are the debug numbers. So what we can do to get rid of that is let's come back in, stop debugging. See how there's a drop down here called solution configuration? We want to change that to release. What that does is it turns off all debug code. You remember how earlier in the modules we showed you how to do a debug.write line. What this will do is it'll actually comment out those and will not compile it inside the final build of your app. So we've got it done. Let's do a rebuild under the release configuration. You can always see the current status of your app's build by these tools right there in the toolbar and the little progress indicator, and then you'll see a rebuild all succeeded. Click the emulator again. So now what it's doing is taking the new release packaged version and deploying it to the emulator. Come back. That's nice and pretty. That's what we want the app to look like. So let's click capture again. And there you go. That's a pretty good screenshot. Don't forget to click save. So you click save. What it'll do is let you pick a location on your disk and you can just save it and then you upload that. Make sure you get a bunch of good ones too. So we just wanted to be able to come around. There's a good shot there. Get that one. Come back out. You can, maybe that's not one you want to put, but you know something? You should, because what it'll do is show the extra features that your app has. You can go into some details pages and wait for these to load. But you get the idea. You want to get 8 nice, beautiful shots. One last thing you can do is you can take different resolutions by opening it in a different emulator. If you notice, the SDK comes with different emulators to see what your app looks like on different phones. Or you can resize the image after you've saved it.
All apps and in-app products must comply with the certification requirements before they can be published in the Windows Phone store. The certification requirements are divided by type, such as app policies, content policies, and app submission. Each applicable certification requirement contains steps that you can use to test your app ahead of time. Some examples of the certification requirements include app policies for Windows Phone. First, your app may not sell, link to, or otherwise promote mobile voice plans. Next, if your app enables chat, instant messaging, or other person-to-person communication, allowing the user to set up or create an account or ID from the mobile device, the app must include a mechanism to verify that the individual creating the account or ID is at least 13 years old. For content policies for Windows Phone, your app must not contain any content that depicts or encourages harm or violence against a person or animal in the real world. Also, your app must not contain excessive or gratuitous profanity. Keep in mind that you must have rights to all the content you use in your app. This is particularly important for images and logos. An app that uses Microsoft logos, a logo of a company, product, team, etc., for which you do not own the rights to, will most likely not pass certification. App Studio will create a privacy policy for you, but you should be aware that if you have made any modifications to your app in Visual Studio, you will need to create an updated privacy policy. In order to be submitted, the following submission requirements for Windows Phone must be met. The app must be compiled using the release configuration instead of debug. The app must not contain debugging symbols or output. Your app screenshots must only contain app graphics and must not include any emulator Chrome, frame rate counters, or debug information. App Studio will generate screenshots that are very close to exact and will pass certification. These screenshots are available from the upload package available after you generate your app from the App Studio website. Once you have provided all of the necessary app info, you're ready to submit your app. To submit your app, you'll need to upload an AppX file or AppX upload file to Dev Center so that certification requirements can be checked. You can use an AppX file created by App Studio directly, or you can use one produced by Visual Studio. If you compile an AppX file from Visual Studio, make sure you choose Release Build as you just saw in the demo. Additionally, you must specify a version number when building your AppX. After uploading your app package, the next step is to provide a description for your app. some keywords that will help it be located, and screenshots that will allow users to preview the app before downloading it. If you have downloaded the publishing package from App Studio after you generated your app, you will have some screenshots you can use there. If not, you'll need to follow the guidelines we discussed and demoed. Once you've finished with the description, keywords, and screenshots, the final step is to submit your app for certification. The certification process can take anywhere from an hour up to 5 days. Once the submission process has completed, you will receive an email to your developer account inbox that will inform you of the results of the submission process.
Okay, so now your app is done and it's time to upload to the store for publication. You'll want to come to dev.windowsphone.com/en-us/dashboard. You'll sign in with the Microsoft account that you have associated with your developer account. Most commonly, it would be the same Microsoft account that you used for App Studio. First thing you want to do is you want to reserve an app name for it. So I'm going to come over to click Submit App, App Info, and come in here and you want to give it a name. We're going to need a unique name, so let's try Visit Venice. See if anybody else has that or not. Oh, somebody has it, so let's try Venice Vacation. No, let's try go to Venice. There we go. Go to Venice is available. So you'll see the package identity name underneath here. You're going to need that. And the Windows publisher name. You're going to need that as well. So let's pick an app category. This is travel and navigation. And you'll notice there's a subcategory for it. City guides, hotels. So I'd say travel tools would be the best option. And now you choose your base pricing. If you want it to be free, you leave it at $0. Most commonly, you leave these in the default value with the distribution. So let's click Save. Now the next step is to upload and describe your package. So let's open that. And the packages, add new. So we'll come back to that in a second. Let's come over to Publish Info. Now what you'll need to do with an 8.1 app is you need to associate the app with the store. So on the Publish Info tab, before we click Generate, that's very important. Before you actually generate the package, let's associate the app with the store. So app identity, we saw back here, right? We actually have to go back. Go back to the app info. Is right here. So there's the app identity. App display name. This is what will be shown on the phone. Publisher ID, which is right there. Paste that in. And the publisher name is the actual name of your publisher account. If you don't know this, you can find this on the dashboard. So if you, let's open this in another tab so I don't change the submission process. So if you go to the account, and you'll see your publisher name is right there, Boston. So my publisher name is Boston. Click Confirm. Now all the store information you need is in the package. So let's click Save, and then click Finish. Now that it's done, let's click Generate, and we want to create publish packages. Now we can turn that switch on because we've added the information to the Publish Info tab. So in the comments, I'm going to be like, Publishing 1.0. If I can spell publishing right. And generate. Okay. Just like before, when we got the source code, it's going to create a version to publish. Now, what if we were going to do it from Visual Studio after seeing all these changes? How would you be able to do that? So I'm going to go back to Visual Studio where we have the solution open. So now you're pretty familiar with this by now. So let's collapse all these so we can get an easier view with less noise. So we want to publish the Windows Phone version. The app is in release and we've got our screenshots. So if you right click on the project in the Solution Explorer, you'll see a store option. Now the first thing you want to do is associate the app with the store. So what this will do is this will actually go to Dev Center for you and get everything you need. So I'm going to pause the video and sign in. This is where you would sign in with the same Microsoft account that you signed in to Dev Center in the first place. And if you have two-factor authentication turned on, which I highly recommend, it will ask you for the code each time that you try to associate a package. So now after you've signed in, what it's going to do is it should go up to Dev Center and look at all the package identities that you have. Because I've created a package identity, go to Venice, it will automatically find it. This is a great feature. Now, if you wanted to reserve the name directly from here, you can. You didn't have to do that first step there. So now we get the information. All right, everything looks good. Let me click Associate. And what you'll see next is a little file that says package.storeassociation.xml. It adds it to your solution so that each time you build, it will include that information. So now that we've got that there, let's right-click, go to Store again, and create app package. Create your packages dialog. So do you want to build a package that you can upload to the store? Yes. If we weren't signed in before, it'll ask you to sign in here. Great. Now we're going to look at all the apps that are available, whether they have packages or not. Click Go to Venice. This is where a really cool feature comes into play. What it'll do is it'll show you what your last version was in the package, and it will automatically increment it. You can turn it off if you'd like. I'm going to leave it on. And we know exactly where it's going to deploy to. So let's click Create. Visual Studio is doing all the magic wrapping up, and it's going to create a file called an AppX upload package. You can do a test on your app as well. So if you do the Launch Windows App Certification Kit, it'll do a lot of the tests that Dev Center is going to do on the package. So if you wanted to make sure that your app was going to pass, you could run this package on it. So let me just go directly to the location where the AppX upload is. Right there. And that's the file we would upload. Now let's go back to App Studio and where it generated the file for us. So where it says here, Windows Phone 8.1 AppX upload package, we download that. This comes with the screenshots for you. So I'm going to save it in the same place that I had all my source code in. If you notice, the actual zip folder is called Phone Publish Package, because if you download the Windows one, it'll say Windows Publish Package. So let's click Save. And we know it's there. I'm going to open the folder. Now if we open this up and extract it all right here and see what's going on, we have a bunch of great screenshots already. Now this is a nice time-saving feature, and even the logo of your app. Okay, let's go back to Dev Center where we've got our app name and everything's ready to go. Now we want to upload the actual application. So we come to step number 2, upload and describe your package. Now we click Add New. Now we go to where we were, Phone Publish Package, AppX Upload. Now I'm using the one from App Studio, but the same one that you got from your, let me show you where it is. I could still use the one that Visual Studio made for us if I wanted to. So let's click that and open. It's going to upload the app. The AppX upload contains a bunch of metadata that the store uses, and you'll see exactly what this shows in a second. See how it says loading info? So Dev Center is very smart. It knows exactly what capabilities your app's using and what resolutions it supports, the size, etc. So if we scroll down, here's the description. And a very important tip that I tell you, so when the user first loads your app on the store, they see the first couple lines. So be very thoughtful. Say this is a must-have app if you're going to Venice. Now, if you've won awards, you would want to put it there, or if you were featured in like a website like WP Central, then you would want to put it there as well, because this is what the user sees in the first 2 lines. If the user has a high resolution phone, they'll see the first 4 lines, but don't bet on that always. And remember, half of the phones out there are low memory devices like the Lumia 520. Okay, so then you go into some details, and this app has a lot of great features. If I could tie it. And be a little more clear, say Italy, not Venice, California. Okay, now I highly recommend you use the update. The first time you just say initial publication or initial release. But let's say if this was version 2, users really like when you say, okay, I fixed a bug or added great new features like White Rabbit Day, Rabbit coupons, how about that? And this is a great way to communicate to users. Keywords are very important. So we say Venice, travel, Italy. Be creative. It'll also, the search algorithm looks in the description as well, but overduplication doesn't help your search results. So just be more creative with combinations and phrases that would make people travel. These people that are traveling to different countries commonly would want to search for these terms, and that's what you would want to use here. Use your imagination. Okay, so now we need to upload the app icon, which is a 300 by 300, and screenshots. You could do them individually by clicking on the actual plus icon for each one, but there's a great feature saying upload all. So if we come to the Venice App Studio and the phone publish package where we know that App Studio downloaded everything for us, this is a great little thing you do. Select all, click open, and you can see in the background a little bit we have the app icon and 7 great screenshots of the app. Okay. Now we click save. Now if you're using ads, you would come in here and get a token for your ads, ad ID, or you would use Pub Center. If you wanted to have different prices for different markets, you can do it here. Or if you're using maps, if you're using Here Maps in your app, you need a token to use the app. Okay, click review and submit. Now don't think it's submitted yet, because a lot of people will actually exit out of this without realizing it's not submitted. Okay, so after clicking submit, you'll be able to see whatever problems might be wrong with your application, because first of all, you can't submit it. And what problem is here is, although we did not have Venice reserved, someone else has it. It noticed that we're trying to sneak one through, that it didn't match. So what I would need to do is go back to App Studio, change the name of the app to Go to Venice, and then regenerate it, download it, and then upload it. But knowing this ahead of time, because you've seen this just happen to me, all of this would go clear, and then you would see the submit button, you click it, and then you're done. So let's quickly come back here and go to Associate App Store. Go to Venice, click confirm, save, finish. I'm going to generate and download the items again, and we'll cut to the actual resubmission. Okay, so we're going to upload the new package that I had fixed in App Studio. Now, this is the same process that you would experience if you were updating the app. There's no need to click delete. Instead, you just click replace. Same thing, go back to phone publish. There's the new version. And you do not have to upload more screenshots because they have been uploaded before. However, if you're going to update views in your app and they look better or different, then you want updated screenshots. But I hadn't changed anything in the view. So click save and then submit. Now Dev Center is going to notice that everything is kosher. Okay, submit. There we go. I've seen certification take as little as 15 minutes. However, if you're using special capabilities in your app, such as you want to go to the user's phone book or things like that, it'll take a couple days because somebody will sit there and test to make sure that your app does not do anything it shouldn't be doing. Okay, there we go. Enjoy and sit back and watch the downloads come rolling in.
Managing your app after submission is equally as important as preparing and publishing it. By actively managing your app after publication, you can generate a feedback loop that helps drive your app's popularity and potentially its sales. Responsiveness to user feedback will help drive positive comments on your App Store listing and help promote its visibility and appeal to new users. Additionally, if you can act upon the feedback and provide regular updates, it will encourage your users to keep your app installed and promote it to others. This is a part of the normal application development life cycle and should not be underestimated in importance. In order to manage your app after publication, you can use the Dev Center dashboard. Using the dashboard, you have access to useful information about your app and its activity on the Windows Phone Store. You can view reports on the financial returns of your apps, download statistics, and crash counts. You will also find relevant messages about your app and the submission process in the dashboard. If you want to check on the progress of your app after submission and before it is published to the store, check the dashboard. Now that we've followed an app through its full life cycle, from conception to publication, let's look back at what we've learned. The appeal of getting an app published onto a mobile phone app store is fairly easy to understand. While many are attracted to the potential money to be earned through sales of an app, there are numerous other driving factors too. Apps have become a great avenue to promote products, movies, events, and other media. They provide a great channel for providing information to customers and collecting customer feedback. With the integration of phones with GPS data, location-based information is also quite popular. Other more established companies might have applications they choose to provide a phone interface for. Finally, with the competitive job market the way it is, many industrious professionals opt for publishing apps as a form of an online resume. You've now learned that App Studio addresses quite a number of these driving factors by allowing virtually anyone to produce an app for Windows Phone through the simplicity of a web-based development interface. Without coding, you can create an informational and promotional style app that is ready to publish to the Windows Phone Store with minimal effort. You'll also learn that it is easy to jump right in and make changes to the underlying code to enhance the capabilities of your app. The conceptual architecture of your App Studio app is fairly straightforward now that you've learned all about the pieces. You've learned that App Studio apps are made up of sections. Each section displays information that is tied to a data source. The data sources available to you as you build your App Studio app are quite diverse. You've learned a lot about a variety of them, including the Bing queries, menus, Flickr photo albums, YouTube video collections, HTML5 information, and the powerful collection data source. We also introduced you to a concept of the app development lifecycle. When we broke down this flowchart, we saw that it comprised of two possible tracks. You can create and publish apps using App Studio alone without any further customization. You can also learn that you can take your App Studio app and customize it using Visual Studio and then publish that as well. In either case, you learned a lot of the importance of the lifecycle, maintaining and revisiting an app after publication. You've had a chance to spend some time in Visual Studio. You learned a lot about the Visual Studio IDE and the variety of things you can do with it. You learned about the parts of your app, the solution, how to build your app, debug it, and edit the code using Visual Studio. You also had a chance to work with the emulator in Visual Studio. You learned that you can build apps without a phone and test how they might run on tablets and different sized phones. Ultimately, we ended up looking more closely at the code that runs your App Studio app. You got a chance to experiment with some basic coding constructs and concepts. You learned about the Windows Phone library, components, and other phone capabilities like the datetime component. You learned about decision structures like the if statement and how to cause your code to perform different tasks based on conditions. You also learned about a very important concept called the variable and how they can be used to hold information. By combining all these concepts, we got to see how to cause our app to do some interesting things beyond what App Studio has built into the app for us. Hopefully at this point, your mind is very active, conceiving of all the interesting things you might want to do in your app. Whether you want to learn more about the coding, find out what other components will allow you to access cool phone features like the camera or GPS, or if you want to learn how to build apps that run on all 3 major phone operating systems, your next step is the extension guide. The extension guide is a jumping point that holds a collection of useful links to blog posts, videos, and other helpful information that keep you moving forward. Be sure to download it and keep creating. This is Lance McCarthy. I want to thank you personally for taking the time to do this course, and I'm really looking forward to what you create in App Studio and in Visual Studio. Be sure to send me a link to the app. I'll download and rate it for you.